But honestly, if your worth depends on how much people need you, what happens the day they don't need you that way anymore? Hi everyone, it's Sandy Vecchi, and welcome to No Roles, No Rules, Just You. So grab a cup of coffee or a glass of wine, because you know what Jimmy Buffett said, it's 5 o'clock somewhere, and let's have a conversation. Okay, I just got off the phone with my daughter. She lives completely across the country. So we do these phone calls usually once a week, and they can easily run an hour. You know the kind. We talk about her life, my life, what's happening in the world, and then we move on to the really important things, the things that mothers and daughters really need an hour to solve. Our hair, our clothes, and why everything that we got rid of years ago is suddenly back in style. And somewhere here in the middle of all of it, it hit me, especially after I got off the phone with her. My role with her has completely changed. I'm still her mother. I always will be her mother. She still comes to me for advice. She still wants my opinion. She still calls when she needs to talk something through. But she doesn't need me the way she once did. She's got her own life now. Her own decisions, her own problems she solves without me, and a whole life that exists completely separate from mine. Which, by the way, is exactly what we raise our kids to do, don't we? We spend years trying to turn them into these independent, capable adults. And then they actually become independent, capable adults. And we're like, what? Wait a minute. After we hung up, I kept thinking about how much my role as her mother has shifted. And then I started thinking about all the other roles in my life. They've shifted too. And that's when it hit me. Who am I when I'm not needed the same way anymore? Because for most of our lives, being needed is the one way we measure our worth. Our kids need us. Our jobs need us. Our families need us. And honestly, being needed feels really good. It feels good to know someone trusts you enough. It feels good to know someone's counting on you. It feels good to know what you do actually matters. For me, being needed has always been a big, huge part of who I am. I've always been the person that people come to. My siblings, my friends, my family. They call when they need advice or just need to talk something through. My kids have always come to me for that too. And thankfully, they still do. Sometimes I think maybe I should have been a therapist. Although I can just see it. Knowing me, I probably would have spent the entire session trying to not only organize their lives, but their closets as well. But seriously, I've always found a lot of meaning in being that person for other people, being needed. And then life started changing. My kids grew up, and then they moved across the country. They're all over the place, actually. And along the way, I lost both of my parents. My mom went first, and when my dad died, I remember turning to my husband and saying, well, I'm officially an orphan. I know that sounds a little dramatic. I tend to be that, coming from a grown woman, but there was something about saying it out loud that really hit me. For the first time in my life, I wasn't anyone's daughter anymore. The whole generation above me was now gone. A few years later, another role that had defined most of my adult life changed as well. I retired, 33 years. I had responsibilities. I had a title, knowledge, experience. People counted on me. And then suddenly, none of that. Now, that wasn't the end of my story. As most of you know, I unretired. These days, I'm building this next chapter through speaking and writing and podcasting. But there was still a transition in there. Because when you spend decades being known for what you do, being needed for what you know, it's a strange feeling when that role just isn't there anymore. And I realized I was standing in a completely different stage of my life. One where I actually had to figure out who I was underneath all those roles, all those people who needed me, which got me thinking about something I'd always had backwards. I'd had it backwards for most of my life. I think I'd been treating being needed and being valuable as the very same thing. They're not. For years, I thought my value came from what I did for other people. Solving problems, being dependable, having the answers, being the one everyone could depend on, count on, to come to. Those are good things, but honestly, if your worth depends on how much people need you, what happens the day they don't need you that way anymore? That's one of the uncomfortable parts of this stage of life, this third act. We know our roles are going to change. What nobody warns us about is what that does to your identity. Because suddenly, the question isn't, who needs me? It's, who am I now? Not who I was as a mother, or who I am as a mother, not who I am as a professional, not who I am as the one everybody calls when they need something, but who am I just as me? I think that's where a lot of us get stuck. I know I did. We spend decades being responsible, showing up, taking care of people, doing what needed to be done. And somewhere here or there, we get so good at being everything everyone else needs that we forget to ask a very important question. What do we need? So now I'm learning to ask myself a question I really probably should have asked a whole lifetime ago. What do I need? Still working on this answer, by the way, if I'm honest. But here's what I'm starting to understand and while I'm all figuring it out. Just because I'm not needed the same way doesn't mean I'm not needed. My roles changed, that's all. My kids don't need me running their lives anymore. Honestly, trust me, they don't want me running their lives anymore. But they still want my perspective. They still call and say, hey, Mom, what do you think about this? And I love that because so many people who write and think about this stage of life talk about this. It's that shift. We go from being the person doing everything for everybody else to being more of the counselor, the mentor, the teacher. Not because we suddenly have all the answers. God knows I don't. But because we've lived long enough to have picked up a few things along the way. We've made mistakes, oh plenty. We've survived things that we didn't think we'd survive, been there, done that. And we've changed our minds a lot of times, done that too, and started over. I'm doing that right now. We figured out what actually matters and what really, truly doesn't. And that's worth something. So maybe the question is, how do I get people to need me again? Maybe it's, what do I have to offer now? That's a big part of why I'm sitting here talking to you this very moment. I still have something to offer, I hope. But I'm also learning something else. And honestly, this part's been harder for me than figuring out how to be needed differently. I'm learning it's finally okay to put myself first, which is even a strange sentence to say out loud after a lifetime of being so focused on everybody else. But I'm realizing I need me too. I need to pay attention to what brings me joy, what makes me curious, what makes me smile, what I still want to learn, what I still want to experience, what I still want to say. And don't get me wrong, I still want to be there for my kids. I still want to be the friend that people call on. I still want to help and encourage and pass along whatever wisdom I've managed to scrape together in all these years. That part of me isn't going anywhere. But I don't have to measure my worth by how much people need me anymore. And I don't have to feel guilty asking, what do I want? Putting myself first at this stage isn't selfish. I'm realizing that. It's just recognizing that my life belongs to me too. It always did. And after a lifetime of showing up for everybody else, I'm finally giving myself permission to show up for me. So if you're finding yourself in this same place, don't mistake being needed differently from being less valuable. You still matter. You still have something to give. But maybe now one of the people who needs you most is you. See you next time. Until next time, remember, the best part of your story isn't behind you. It's the third act you're writing right now. So give yourself permission to ask new questions, to dream new dreams, to become more of the person you've always been, beneath the titles, the responsibilities, and the roles. Because this isn't, the end of your story. It's the beginning of the most meaningful act of your life. No roles, no rules, just you.